In regard to the Tea Party, you know, you have to say, what is the Tea Party? You know, the Tea Party is just a whole bunch of folks who got really upset. Cap and Trade, you know, really started that out a few years ago. They got very upset that summer and just said, you know, we don't want our electricity bills raised dramatically. We don't want our gasoline raised dramatically. Right after that, you had the health care law, Obamacare, you know, that came out. They got very upset about that. They realized that if you bankrupt the country, then there is no money for Social Security, there is no money for Medicare and things like that. This is a group of people, I think, that feel like they've worked hard, they've played by the rules their entire lives, and now the system is kind of falling apart around them, and they're just demanding that they get their act together. And I really, you know, I didn't join the Tea Party caucus, and I don't know that Tea Party caucuses are a good idea in the sense that the one thing they don't need to do is be politicized. They need to be an independent group that, you know, votes Republican and Democrat as they see fit. They don't need to become, you know, just an arm of the Republican Party.
Well, do you see its influence waning in some of those other surveys? It's fallen in public esteem, the Tea Party. Do you see its influence waning?
I think that group, you know, we didn't see in the last election cycle, you didn't see a lot of things going on in the summer, you know, prior to the, you know, a lot of activity and things like you did the summer before that. I think this group is just sitting back, essentially waiting till the next election. You know, if they go vote and decide, you know, who they feel like is going to be the person, you know, the individual, whether it's in the primary or in the general election, that, you know, works for limited government, limited taxes and things like that.
You've traveled to Iraq many times, and Afghanistan, I think, several. Same question I put to Senator Pryor on a program such as like this. 1 year from now, we will look at Iraq and say what?
Well, I hope we say that it's a good story. You know, we were very successful. You know, the men and women that served there did a tremendous job. They won the war. They were able to train a police force, train an army that I think will be able to do the job. I'm very concerned now, you know, with this, you know, the different things that are starting to divide them a little bit. We need to use the bully pulpit. We need to do all that we can, you know, to keep that together. But hopefully that will be such that they are like they are now, that they're not a haven for terrorists, you know, that will, you know, be a stepping stone to attack us in the future, and are not a haven for a regime that will be such that they're invading their neighbors, you know, like they were under the previous leadership. So again, that's my hope. And the same is true of Afghanistan. I think all of us want to get out of Afghanistan as quickly as we can do that. We're drawing down our forces pretty significantly. I have a real concern. I was over there not too long ago. It'll probably be over, you know, early next year. The 188th group out of Fort Smith will be going, you know, later in the year. Perhaps the 39th Brigade, you know, they're scheduled to go. So I'll be going back for those things and probably more. My concern is that we don't draw down so quickly that we leave those that are left in danger. You know, more danger than they would be if we'd had the presence that we need to protect them. So the last time I was there with Senator Inhofe, that was the message as we visited with General Allen and others. You know, assure us that that's not going to happen. You know, that the people that are left in harm's have the assets that they need so that they can do their job, but also that they can do it as safely as we can, you know, as we can make that job. And he assured us that that was the case, and that he would, you know, speak up if that, you know, if we got in that situation.
The Taliban is now said to be proposing, or will open, a diplomatic office in Dubai, I think. Mm-hmm. Is that necessarily a hopeful sign, or your take on that?
You know, Steve, I'm a guy that really believes very strongly that you know, it's okay to communicate. You know, it's okay to talk to these folks. You know, and really find out. You know, where the common ground is and things, you know, what we can do to, you know, get along as best we can. And so I think it's a positive thing. Now, certainly, you know, you don't want to be in a situation where you know, you give up your ideals and things like that. And But I think talking is a positive thing, and so I don't see that hurts anything at all.
Well, let's shift over a few degrees to the east. Iran just fired off tested a cruise missile. From a distance, it looked impressive, but plainly, it seems to be moving, despite international sanctions, and the toll they are taking seems to be moving closer to achieving a nuclear weapon.
Right.
What to do?
Well, I think it's a huge problem. One of two things are going to happen. If you listen to what Iran has said they're going to do with a nuclear weapon, they're going to deal with Israel, and then they're going to deal with the West, Europe, and ourselves. So that, and I do think that you have to...
They are that crazy in your estimation?
I don't think they're crazy. I think they're ideologues. And they believe in, a second coming and stuff, and they believe in a Holocaust that needs to happen as a result of that. So I think with them, it's unlike when we were dealing with the Russians and the Chinese and things. You do lose your deterrence factor in that they, there is a group over there that feels like it's their duty to usher in
sizable enough.
Second coming.
Sizable enough to.
I think amongst their leadership, yes. Now, I think when you get down amongst the young people and things like that, it's a very, very different view. But amongst their leadership, yeah, very, very definitely. So if they go nuclear, it's a tremendous threat. And if they go nuclear, if they're allowed to do that, then Saudi Arabia has already said, that they will go nuclear. I've been in Turkey. They've said that they will go nuclear. Egypt, all of those countries are scared to death of the Persians and have been for many, many years. So, you'll have a nuclear, whatever in the Middle East, and that's certainly not going to make the world any safer. So I think Israel probably will strike Iran, just based on their history.
Just seconds to go. You would approve of that?
I think that if Israel does that we have to support that, and that they would only do that as a last resort. But I don't think it's in anybody's interest for Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
I have to end it there, Senator, simply because we're out of time. Thank you for yours.
Thank you very much.
And, of course, for yours. We'll see you next time.